Happy New Year, ACL Nation. Welcome to 2024. This is Around the ACL. Michelle Thompson here with Trey Ryder and Anthony Ione, kicking off the new year after an amazing event in Myrtle Beach that we will get into. So we're going to talk about the high school and the college championships. We're going to talk about the Open. We're going to talk about the pro teams. So all kinds of fun stuff to get into. But first of all, Trey, how was your New Year's Eve? How was your New Year's Day? What's going on?
It was productive, not like fun, but it was productive. We decided, apparently my wife, while I was gone, decided that she wants to reorganize the entire house and like deep organize and clean the house. So literally when I got home from Myrtle, a day and a half of literally just organizing this, so many bins. So everything is in its place in my house right now. There's not a stray pencil.
Haven't you not been living there that long?
Yeah, but like legitimately, like you take a bunch of stuff, you put it in the closet. Like my closet is color coded now. Like I have a color coded closet. It's like, I mean, everything. The entire place has just been we threw like 10 bags of stuff that we also like just got rid of stuff. Like, you know, you have stuff in your house that you never use. We did a deep clean. So literally we're doing that on Sunday night. And we look down and we're like, oh, the ball's going to drop in like 2 minutes. Should we turn the TV on? And so we didn't have time. We didn't have time to turn the TV on. So we literally just like watched a live stream on our phone and Happy New Year. And then we finished and went to bed. So not exciting.
Your office is pristine too. Did she walk in your office and go, if home life is going to be
here the
clean.
next day.
Yeah.
We came in here the next day. There's so much room in here for activities. Like it's just activities. It's weird to have all this open space and not clutter everywhere.
Nice. Anthony, I hope yours was more exciting.
Not super low key. Yeah. So I got the kiddos at home, you know, they're under 21. So we kept it low key. We actually just hopped on, we call it the light rail. It's basically the train that goes downtown. It was free train all night, you know, in spirit of the new year. So we took the train down and then a little fireworks show in downtown Denver. So, you know, pretty simple. Walked around, watched the fireworks show, walked back to the train, got home. We got home like at 11:20. The fireworks show was at 9. So we did the early one with the kids.
The East Coast one. Oh no, you're Mountain Time. Never mind.
Yeah. And then, just watched the ball drop on TV at midnight and was asleep by 12:30.
Nice.
Michelle, you gotta hold up your end over here. You better be the party animal for us.
Yeah, no, my bestie and I, we hosted a party at her house. We did a bring your own charcuterie board. So everyone had to bring their own charcuterie board. I did like egg rolls and different appetizers. She did a chicken wing one. We had a sushi one. We had a like dessert one, so everyone did a good job. We played games since we're all old and can't stay awake if we don't play games. So we played lots of catchphrase and Cards Against Humanity and turned the TV on a few minutes before and Happy New Year. And then it was fun. For the kiddos, we had like plastic champagne flutes, so I put sparkling cider with gummy bears in it, so they got to have their special drink, and they all stayed up till midnight, so they're very excited. And then, Rome still woke up at 6 a.m. So a solid 6 hours of sleep for my 8-year-old. but he did good. But it was a lot of fun.
All right, so you guys made it home for New Year's, coming off of the broadcast and everything. Everybody made it home?
Yeah, I came home on Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah, I came home Saturday, and then the open event staff stayed all the way through. But
yeah,
I was hoping you were saying, like, I've heard this like new thing that people are doing with like younger kids is that they're taking a recording of last year's ball drop and they're playing it at like 9:30 p.m. and the kids think, "Oh, Happy New Year!" and then they send the kids to bed at 9:45. And
I think we would have been too loud for the kids to sleep anyway, but also like they can tell time.
Yeah, that's true. Most of them work like younger. I mean, it's obviously young kids, but
like Rome would periodically ask, "What time is it?" Like, and he was doing the math, so like he would have known, figured it out. But we had a lot of fun, and we got home probably about 12:30 as well, so it wasn't bad. All right, let's get into the high school and college championships. Lots of fun was had. We had for college singles, Brandon Earls get the win there. For college doubles, Austin Waskow and Clayton Eli. College teams, Oklahoma State. For high school singles, Tony Forbes, high school doubles, Ian Johnson and Nathaniel Langley, and high school teams, Doyle High. But we'll start with college. Trey, give us your thoughts.
Yeah, well, first one off the top. I know it's not the one that didn't end up on television, but I got to give a big shout out to Oklahoma State. 2 years ago, they finished third place in the college teams national championship. Last year, they make it all the way to the finals. They lose to South Carolina. So this year, third time's a charm. Reed Palmer, kind of the leader of that group, finally gets over the hump. Him and Oklahoma State national champions in teams. I thought that was really, really cool and really special. So I thought that was fun to watch. But yeah, I mean, I made this point on the broadcast that, really when you look at college singles, this is a pathway to become an ACL pro. From 2018 all the way through 2021, every single collegiate singles winner has gone on to be an ACL pro. Matthew Stout did it in 2018, Austin Slowbaum in 2019, Draven Sneed in 2020, and then Kobe Costanza in 2021. You go over into 2022, Cole Brewer wins it. He comes back and he's playing in this event trying to get a back-to-back win, right? Obviously, Brandon Earl comes back and he wins it. He takes it down. He ends up taking down Cole Brewer. And he's the ultimate champion. But I think this is really a showcase of these are some of the some great players that can go on to become ACL pros and really solid ACL pros at that. All those pros I just mentioned had some type of pro accolade at some point in their career. When I look at the winner of this, Brandon Earls, what I just found so interesting is that of how you showcase if you're down the center, you're going to win. And it really doesn't have to have a lot of flavor to it. He did have a selective roll bag that he used every now and again. But for the most part, I thought Earls was a down the center type of guy. He threw a couple airmails. I don't know if anybody would believe me, but the champion of college singles on the broadcast court shot less than 50% on airmails. He didn't need it. He missed two big airmails. He hit some rolls. But for the most part, he was down the center on his slide shots, had a selective cut bag that he used ever so often, but even his natural bag had a little bit of a tilt on it. Wasn't the prettiest bag, but he got the job done. And it shows if you're down the center, kind of almost Alex Rawls-esque in a way, right? If I muddy up the front of the hole, I'm good at knocking a couple bags in. I don't have to have an incredible push, but I push when needed and stay down the center. You can win bag games. So Brandon Earl gets a big win there. I was impressed by him. And then on the double side, we really got to showcase, Austin Waskow. I mean, him and Clayton Eli win for Blinn College, but I think Waskow really was the focal point of that team. With the exception, in singles, he kind of fell apart a little bit. But if you look at the PPRs, this is a guy that was well above a 10.0 PPR for an entire tournament on the collegiate doubles side. So the entire tournament, he throws above a 10. And he's doing it not just running bags nonstop. He's doing it with a collection of roll bags, pushes, cuts, everything that you would expect from a high level, even a pro player. So I was impressed by Waskow. This is somebody that is on the Texas Bully Baggers as an amateur player. He was called up. He is an elite player. Someone that now also throughout the weekend, based on his play, we expect to see at pro events based on his finish in elite singles and elite doubles. So ultimately, we're going to see more of Waskow. And then when it comes to Brandon Earls, this is someone that we should expect to see more so in the future. And if the trend points to us correctly, should become an ACL pro at some time in the future.
Anthony, what do you think?
Hey, I love seeing the pro support for the college and the high school players. And you got Trevor Brooks out there for Kimberly Jenkins, Sims, Chamberlain, Odom, that Texas crew for Austin and Clayton. Great Lakes was out there. I saw Joe Kay and Maya Cup in the stands. And then, of course, Slowbaum was out there to support his brother. But I'm a technician geek, right? And right away I noticed Kimberly Jenkins has evolved her pitch, and I absolutely love it. If you go back a little bit of time, she had a very unique two-handed pitch. It almost looked like she was throwing with two hands at the same time. Now very similar to Eric Davis's pitch. But to me, it was the nerves that absolutely killed Kimberly Jenkins. She smoked a few layup bags. She had to go over. Trevor Brooks was kind of consulting her a little bit in that semifinals to help her get it done. She got it done. It wasn't pretty, but it definitely carried over to the finals where she gave up 2 points. She gave up 2.6 points per round. You just simply can't win like that. Waskow and Eli, they got hot when it mattered. Like you said, Trey, both throwing a 10 in the finals. So congrats to them, the 2023 college doubles champs. On the college singles sides, if we just kind of go to the semis, you talked about Waskow a little bit, another Texas breed with a ton of talent. His line was just off early. An 8th spot in round 3 basically ended the match for him. But overall, I think a really strong weekend for him. And if we go to those finals, you talked about technique. Cole Brewer, for me, technique-wise, is just not it. Unnecessary bends at the knees, bowing at the waist. He doesn't have that palm-up release where you're going to need that to shape shots. And that's really where the game is going. Like you said, real floppy in the air, that downward tilt does limit shots. Now, that's going to get them through some matches, but if we're thinking college becoming pros, those loose mechanics aren't going to get you very far. And if we look at the top talent in the league right now, their mechanics are tight. And that's just something to be said, not just for the college and high school players, but for the aspiring pros as well. Really look at your technique and clean that up. For me, Brandon Earl's just the opposite, kind of a groomed Great Lakes player. He has this Joe K style, with the step. He has a forward swing pitch set, which I don't mind. It really gets your arm in plane. I actually teach that a lot for people that have a problem hitting their pockets or hitting their hips coming around the outside. He highlighted the roll bag, like you were saying, Trey, in round 8 and 10. The pace for those guys was super fast. I mean, it was just one bag after another. Ultimately, a missed airmail drag in round 9 for Brewer ended the game. But I think if you take Earls and drop him into the pro league right now, I think he's a top 100 guy. I think he does have that skill set. If we talked about high school a little bit, I'll just jump into the singles. Landon Bass versus Tony Forbes in the finals. But if we go to the semifinals, is where we got our first look at Tony Forbes. He looked comfortable from the beginning on the broadcast. He had that big airmail rodeo in round 2. It was a gutsy shot. He hits it, and I really think that was a difference for him to carry him through to the win. If he misses that, he's given up huge points, and we know in round limited format, that's going to be tough. I think that gave him some confidence and rode him all the way to the end. Jaden Ellis in the semifinals, he's got that big elaborate step over on display. I can just see the step over people going crazy at home. He really exaggerated a little bit, but he's compliant. He almost turned it into a lunge, to make sure that back foot stayed down. He couldn't capitalize 3 different times in the first half. That really cost him big points. There was a lot of 12-10 scoring scenarios where he just kept giving up points. He had some jam bags that cost him points. I counted 8 points in the first 6 rounds that he gave up off of simple hole shots that he would typically hit. Speed control issues in round 6 and 7. And we know when you go from the main court to the broadcast court, you have to be able to make those quick adjustments to speed. Was it nerves? I don't know. Was it speed? It could have been for Jaden Ellis. Bass looked comfortable on the main stage. He hit a gutsy airmail he shot a gutsy airmail in round 2. He missed, right? So now he's down 5-0, cost him big points. Missed another airmail in round 4. He's 0 for 2 now. Now he's down 8-0. So at that point, you're trying to manufacture points. Those 2 airmail really just cost him. The score looked worse than I think it actually was. He had to kind of go into that, chasing of points kind of thing. But Tony Forbes looked at home. He did everything right. He had a really nice tempo. He showed he had all the shots. 10.11 over 9 rounds, and that Meesh, that kid's gonna be a stud.
Yeah, he's got a great attitude. He approaches it like baseball. He approaches the game like baseball. He thinks of it that way. He said he thinks of the strategy of each player, and like there's a lot of thought going into what he's doing. And Jaden Ellis, I did speak to right before the broadcast. He didn't seem nervous to me. He actually seemed pretty calm. So I do think it was a speed thing for him. I'm sure he got nervous as he was missing. And at that point, things changed mentally, but he didn't seem like that was the case before the match, at least.
Right. Hey, real quick in doubles, I did want to send a shout out to Bryce Forbes. a guy who came on my radar at Worlds, and most people might not know how talented this kid is, and I don't think he had a chance to highlight it, but this kid won his bracket at Worlds. And it's interesting, if you check out some of the players he beat in his bracket, a lot of the names, coincidentally, that we saw this weekend. He beat Brandon Earls to win that bracket, now the college champ. He beat Frank Verona in that bracket, who won his Open this past weekend. He beat a multinational high school champ, Gavin Cano, Aiden Brown. These are some of the players that he beat on his way to that bracket win. But another speed control issue in the semifinals. He just couldn't control his speed on the broadcast court. So another thing to these players coming in, you have to be able to make those quick adjustments. Schlobom, his nerves absolutely killed him, man. You could see him just struggling, looking at his brother, trying to figure it out. A 6.7 PPR. You just simply can't win matches like that. Langley looked clean, no issues, very smooth technique. Johnson, consistent as heck. The semifinal and final, those boys were on point. I liked that Bass carried that confidence over to that one as well. He had his head bobbing to the music. He just looked like he was in the moment. And he matched Lashley's 10.0 PPR in that match. They were a wash. So it came down to Eastridge on his side. He was tight. A lot of unforced errors. He was a difference in the loss. Bass kept fighting, hit a big airmail in round 8 to tie it at 8, but Eastridge just couldn't find it. That was ultimately the difference. And then just to throw it out, I love the Dusty Thompson interview, really building up the college thing. And then Trey, I don't know what we're calling that, infomercial or commercial about the high school stuff. I think that's really cool as well, kind of showing what's coming in 2024.
For sure. Anything else to add to high school, Trey, before we move on to the Open?
Yeah, just want to give props to Ian Johnson. I thought he really put the team on his back in the finals to the point where he was hitting everything. I mean, not the prettiest bag, not the best form, but he found a way to hit a lot of bags in. He pushed it, and he was precise, and he was accurate. And that's ultimately what it takes to win. I'll leave you guys with the stat line of the tournament. Stat line of the tournament goes to Austin Waskow and Clayton Eli. Combined between the two of them, 5-0 record, 10.16 PPR for the whole tournament, 1.92 DPR.
Wow.
41% four-baggers, and a 2.8 points allowed per game.
Oh my gosh.
Now, many people would say, well, on the broadcast court, they were round limited. They only had one game where they didn't get all the way to 21, and that was the finals where they scored 20. So
crazy.
Dang.
There's your stat line of the tournament.
That's it. They're very impressive. Moving on to our Open number 6 in our singles, we had Ryan Trader take another win here on the season. Doubles, Adam Hisner and Trey Birchfield. For women, Cheyenne Bubenheim, senior Pat Sem, and junior also Ryan Trader. So this is not going to be the last time we hear Ryan Trader. I think we're going to get used to hearing this name. I think in terms of juniors, he's kind of doing what Cheyenne's doing, where it's just like, oh yeah, if Ryan's there, it's probably going to him. And then here he is doing it on a huge field on the singles side. Biggest Open we've had, right, Trey?
Yep.
Biggest Open, and Ryan takes it down. So congrats to him. Trey, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is there's a lot of different angles to take here, but I me, I tend to be a historian, and I know Anthony will talk a good bit about Ryan Trader. So I'm actually going to take a step away from Ryan Trader right now and focus a lot on doubles. And it was a pretty historic win for Trey Birchfield and Adam Hisner.
Yeah.
And I don't think, and I want to put in perspective, like, it was a big win for Adam Hisner. Adam Hisner, with that win, gets his 9th total title. Gets his 8th total title. His 8th total title propels him into the top 10, back into the top 10 all time. This is someone that we thought, all right, he got a lot of titles early in his career, and he's kind of fading.
Is he done?
Is he not going to get them? He comes back in an absolutely loaded field in doubles, and in my opinion, I think he was the better player on the day, Anthony. I mean, maybe some other people might disagree, but I thought he was a dominating player on his end of the boards, and he really showcased how good of a player he can be and showed that he doesn't have to win with Cody Henderson in order to win at a really high level. And I thought that was important for him. Another stat that I thought is absolutely mind-boggling, Trey Birchfield just won his 8th Open in doubles. 8.
Wow.
That is outrageous when you talk about, I mean, that's half his total titles. In addition to that, we were talking about how Mark Richards had begun to kind of, we thought, run away from Trey Birchfield, and now it was just this 3-horse race. And I think that's to an extent maybe still be true, but Trey Birchfield now gets back closer to Mark Richards. He goes and he's now 16th. 16 total titles is Trey Birchfield, with Mark Richards being that 17, Jamie Graham being 19, and Matt Guy sitting there still at 20. After Trey Birchfield, there's a large gap. There's a 5-title gap between him and the next in line at 11 with Brett Guy. So again, we're talking about a pretty significant bump, and Trey Birchfield continues his case. Adam Hissner hits into history, which I thought was really well. I tweeted this at Anthony right after the event. We talked about 2 of the players right there at the end, Jeremiah Ellis and Ryan Hart, Adam Hissner, and Trey Birchfield. Anthony didn't have either one of them in his top 10. I squeaked in Jeremiah Ellis and Ryan Hart at the very end of mine, but Trey Birchfield and Adam Hissner would have been 17, 16 for me or whatever it was, way down there. I mean, I think this goes to show you that when you have a team that has a ton of experience and they can compete at a high level, that they can be a top 5 team no matter what. I mean, this field that we just saw was very similar to a national in the fact that it's very similar to a pro event. So we're going to see a ton of players, and I think we should look at these results and say to ourselves, whoever succeeded well here is going to be likely to succeed at a very high level when it comes to these pro events once we hit April. And part of that is accentuated. Again, this will probably be my one single thought on the single side before I turn it over to Anthony, is Ryan Trader, okay? When you look at his path all the way to win, he went 9-0, okay, at an Open, and he did not play a single amateur player. Every single player that Ryan Trader played in his route to win this entire thing was a pro player. That shows me that this is a kid that is ready to compete at that level. Because how many times do we do this, Anthony, where we look at the list and it's like, okay, yeah, the guy got to the king seat, he beat a pro, then he, the finals, he beat an amateur that went through, and they end up, all the way in the finals, and it's because they played 2 pros or 3 pros the entire time. They just got a good seat, a good break here and here. Not the case of Trader. Trader beats Josh Glover, Chad Hunt, Logan Chamberlain, Mark Richards after he was down a good bit in that game. He was down 14-4 in that game, came back and won. Ryan Windsor again, Ryan Wiedenfeld, Frank Verona, and Alec Ryan. So I said I wasn't going to talk about Ryan Trader, but I had to share that stat. But overall, I thought it was statement wins by both players, and we got a lot of thinking to do about whether or not who's going to be atop of that ballot when it comes to Jeremiah Ellis and Ryan Trader, at least for Rookie of the Year as we enter the pro season.
Absolutely. Anthony, give us your thoughts.
Yeah, so I mean, to close out the year and going into the Open and really kind of getting a picture of what the pro season is going to look like, you're looking at certain matchups. You're looking at certain wins, certain losses between certain singles and doubles teams. So that's kind of the way that I looked at this Open. Ryan Hart obviously winning his bracket was a big one at the top of the list because the unknown of what kind of partner he's going to be for Ellis. We're seeing Ellis soar to the top. Clearly an A player. Can Ryan Hart be that supporting B player or match him as an A player? Like you were saying, to be a top 10 talent like Trey put into his top 10. So that was huge for Ryan Hart to go out and win his bracket. Now I'm looking at that team as a serious threat, a team that wasn't on my top 10 radar, somewhere in the teens to 20s, a top 20 team. But now are we talking about a top 10 team? So, and he beat Hunter Thorne twice, who Hunter Thorne right now is obviously playing like a top 10 singles player. So Ryan Hart on radar. Frank Verona, only because of the whole storyline with the Rookie of the Year runs. I've mentioned Frank Verona's name a number of times since coming out of Worlds, a guy that I got to sit down, watch some matches. He's definitely impressive to me. We're out here talking about Ellis and Allen and Trader and Soto. So for Verona to go out and win his bracket, I think that propels him to be on the radar now for everybody. Now, arguably, like Trey was saying, an easy run to the king seat if you look at it, but he had to beat Caden Allen twice to get out of that bracket. So he's now on radar. Jimmy Humans for me. Where is Jimmy Humans right now in the pro division? And the way that he competed this weekend, this dude threw gas in singles and doubles. He beats Isidro in singles, takes Harbaugh to 21-16. He was up 16-11 in that one. Smacks Jordan Kamba 22-2. He beats Schrader. He beats Derek Collins. So to me, I'm like, as he's moving his way through the bracket, I'm like, okay, I think Jimmy Humans is still a top 20 player, maybe even better. So I think that was a good run for him. The whole Jeremiah Ellis versus Ryan Trader thing, because, we were looking at these guys as the ones leading the pack on the Rookie of the Year, although we have Caden Allen right there in the mix too. So going into this one was big for me. I'm like, I was really prepared to put Ellis in the pole position as the rookie, the leading candidate for Rookie of the Year coming out of this weekend. So when they both won their bracket, it was like, okay, can we get an Ellis Trader matchup as a bracket playoff? That would have been perfect. So Ellis winning his bracket really helped for me validate me putting him on my top 10. He just hit my top 10 the last time. So winning the bracket really validated that. Trader was on my top 10 at number 8. Him winning the bracket again validated that. Now, the fact that Trader finished ahead of Ellis validated that on my top 10, I had Trader at 8 and Ellis at 10. So right now, I'm still sticking with Ryan Trader as the lead of that Rookie of the Year kind of run right now. Now, I think it's going to be a battle with these guys all the way to the end. You mentioned Hissner. Really, we saw Hissner come out hot. Is he just hot? Is it a fluke, or is Hissner going to be a dominant force in the 2024 season? He showed it in singles and doubles. Absolutely banged it. Now I'm thinking, should we consider this guy a top 10 player, which is crazy. So not only do I think he's a top 15, 20 player, but now if he continues what he did at the next Open, I might consider Adam Hissner as a top 10 player. And is he a better player now without Cody Henderson, which would be crazy to say, but right now he's looking like he's a much better player. Devin Harbaugh, every single Open, I have my eye on Devin Harbaugh because I want the guy to win a freaking an Open in singles over and over again because he's just that good. Loses to Derek Holland, loses to a no-name, Clausen, takes 7th in his bracket. So to me, I'm walking away going, all right, I'm not going to think much of that because we know Harbaugh is still amazing. And if you look at close to the stats, the dude goes 3-2 throwing almost a 10.8. Like,
Wow.
what? Yeah, like what's going on there? So I'm not going to read too much into that, but I want to see Harbaugh continue to win and take home a singles Open as well. Noah Almanza taking 4th place in his bracket. So to me, again, showing consistency over time. We're talking about Noah Monza. Is he back on the rise? That just continues to strengthen that one. Don't know what to get out of Matthew Sorrell. So coming into this Open, I'm like, Matthew Sorrell's, what are you going to give us? And he doesn't compete in very many events. So I'm really looking closely at him. Loses to Trevor Kufis and loses to Jonathan Etheridge. Now, I'm not taking anything away from these players because I think Etheridge is going to surprise a lot of people. Kufis has already surprised all of us. But I wanted to see Matthew Sorrell's win those matches because I thought he was a top 20 player. To me right now, outside of top 20 just based on what happened in this Open. So that kind of shuffles the deck for me. Joe K coming out of this funk, takes 2nd place in his bracket. Yes, he had an easy run through his bracket, but he beats Frank Modlin. I think Joe K's run solidifies him as still a top player in this game. He hasn't fallen off, which at the beginning of the year, we were like, what the heck is going on with Joe K? So good to see him show up. Ryan Windsor hits my top 10 list. I was confident about that one. So to see him come in and make another bracket final run, Ryan Windsor is a top 10 player in this league, period. You have to look at what he's done over the whole season so far. He deserves that spot. He was at number 9 for me, right behind Trader. He lost to Trader in the bracket, so I feel good about how I positioned them in the top 10. Richards coming out. not having Richards is going to win. Richards is going to win. Does it? What do you take? Like third, I think, in his bracket, maybe fourth. Loses to Trader, loses to Travis Purser. Travis Purser was throwing gas. I'm not going to read anything into that. Is Mark Richards still the number one player in the world right now? Yes, he is. He just didn't have the outcome that we had. Gavin Cano, a guy that wasn't on my top 10 list. Trey Ryder gave me shit for that one. He knows how much of a Ryan or a Cano fan. I came into this open saying I'm keeping an eye on Cano. If he has another run like he should, wins a bracket, he's in my top 10. He did that. And going through a Fisher Hamilton, Gavin Cano right now is on my top 10. Now I just got to figure out who the heck comes out of that. But Gavin Cano, yes. Gavin Cano.
How many spots can I have in my top 10? Can I have 15 spots in my top 10?
Yes.
That should be our new segment. It's like Trey and Anthony's top 10 where we agree on like 17 players to be in our top 10. It's like, it's a metaphorical, like it's a.
Yeah, like, wait a second. The math isn't mathing.
No doubt. Ryan Wiedenfield, guys. This is a guy who was 80th in singles last season. Has won another singles bracket. I mean, we got to start talking about Wiedenfield now as a top player in the league. I've talked about his decision-making, the over-aggressive play. He seems to be doing really, really well right now in singles. Now, he's always done good in doubles. I'm excited to see him. Alan Rawls taking 9th in his bracket. Don't care. He's still a top 10 player for me. His stats are off the chart. He had tough, close losses. He's still a top 10 in my opinion. Real quick on doubles. What are we getting from Eric Davis and Matthew Sorrells? Another team I had my eye on really close. Smack, Poitras, and Morellis, which I thought they were pretty even. I was thinking Poitras, Morellis, Eric Davis, Sorrells, top 20 doubles team, but where do I position them? They smacked them 21-2. They get through Rule and Purser, who I also had kind of in that same area. So now I'm looking at Davis and Sorrells as a partnership, maybe moving up a little bit. But who do they lose to? And this speaks volumes to me as well. It tells a lot about, I didn't know what we were going to get from Humans and Foster. They lose to Humans and Foster. So that one is very interesting. Again, Humans having an amazing weekend. And what are we going to get from Brady Foster? So they're looking like they might be a strong doubles team. Ellis and Hart, if you look at their run, you don't really learn much. And it sucks because I was like, I want to see these guys go up against a tough doubles team because I want to see them in the top 10. Trey wants to see them be challenged, but if you look at who they play, I won't go through it. It's just going to take too long, but it was like amateur, a non-dedicated pro team, Humans and Foster to take the king seat, which I wanted to see them hit a top 10 team. And then they play Quinn Reeves and Tony Forbes in the final. I'm like, dang it. I really wanted to see them play a top 10 team and see where they position themselves. Mad confusion with Harbaugh and Cano. We saw them in the field. I expected them to win a bracket, 9th in their bracket. But again, it happens all the time. Are we going to say Devin Harbaugh and Gavin Cano aren't top 10 players in the league? No, we're not. They just had a bad open. They've deserved that argument with consistency over time, but 9th in their bracket, and Devin Harbaugh posted, my bad, Gavin Cano, I sucked in doubles. So he's kind of taking the blame for that one. So a tough weekend for Devin Harbaugh. Gore and Thor, I think you took off your top 10, Trey. They won their bracket going through Matt Guy and Brett Guy twice. I had them at number 6. That feels really good about that one. They could be a serious threat. I got more, Meesh, but I think we're running out of time. I wanted to talk about Rawls in Holland. I'll just close it with who got the better end of that partnership trade. You got Birchfield with Hissner. You got Rawls with Holland. I'm really liking Trey Birchfield right now with Adam Hissner as his partner in that trade scenario.
Agreed.
All right. Moving on to buy or sell. Ryan Trader has retaken the pole position over Jeremiah Ellis for Rookie of the Year.
Trey?
I don't want to say yes. I just think I still think Jeremiah Ellis has the higher upside. You know what? I'm
I have to do.
I'm keeping Jeremiah. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. I get it. It doesn't make any sense. I'm keeping Ellis at 1.
He just Alan Rawls, Ryan Trader.
He did.
Alan Rawls him.
It's a thing now.
I did. I don't know. My gut says Ellis is is a pro event winner at some point this year, and maybe Trader is too. I don't know. I'm delusional.
Hey, yeah, it's not far behind. It's going to be like this, but for right now, I'm going to buy.
You're buying. Okay. Adam Hisner and Trey Birchfield are a top 10 team.
I just don't have room. Where am I putting these people?
Who are you taking out?
Actually, I'm going to have to take out like Jordan Power and Joe Neestet. So I'll throw them in there. I'll have to squeeze them in. I got to put them in the top 10. They just won one of the biggest. They won the biggest Open in the history of the league. They deserve that. I'll put them at 10, and Power and Neestet, you're sitting at 11. Sorry, guys.
Anthony?
Oh, it's so tough. It's really Birchfield. I mean, Adam Hisner's playing so consistent and well right now. Birchfield, I just don't know. Like, look at the singles run for Birchfield this weekend. Not great. Adam Hisner took the king seat, or was in the king seat match, if I remember correctly. Yeah. What's weird is we're talking about the world champ, who's the one that's inconsistent for me. I'd have to take out a Wiedenfield Smith. I'm going to sell. I'm going to sell for right now.
Hayden Gonzalez is now the top amateur prospect in the country.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about an amateur player winning a bracket in the most stacked, one of the most stacked Opens ever, the largest Open ever. That's going to draw some eyes. I'm going to pump the brakes just a tad. I think it's an incredible experience. I think, to me, he gets into the top 5, into that conversation, talk about prospects. If he's going to earn it, he's got to pass Jackson Remick and Gavin Hammond out of Colorado. For me, I think those two are two of the best players in the country at the amateur level. So I'm gonna sell for now, but he's in the conversation now, and he's got some eyeballs on him to see if he can follow that up.
Definitely. Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, last year, guys like Caden Allen, Sammy Soto made it easy for us. Trader, like, it was obvious who the best amateurs were. This year, it's not so obvious, at least right out of the gate. I'm struggling to even think of the ones you mentioned, Hammond and Remick. Yes, I'm trying to think of anyone else who's really obviously leading the pack in the amateur prospect category. I'm going to buy it because of what he did at this particular Open. Impressive stuff out of Gonzalez.
You're going to take him over Jaden Ellis?
Damn it, you see?
How about Tony Forbes? What does the kid got to do?
Yeah, here's the thing, man. Yeah, and Tony Forbes, I'm really nervous about how Ellis performed on the broadcast. Was it speed? Was it nerves? I don't know, but you're right. I mean, it's tough. I'm going to give him credit for right now. I'm going to buy it.
Okay.
Frank Verona would now be on your ballot for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, so if I got 5 spots on my ballot, I was thinking about this. Like, I know it's just one tournament, but does he jump on there? So there's 4 on there that you can't move, I don't think, at this point. And I think you have to find room for a 5th. So Jeremiah Ellis, Ryan Trader, Sammy Soto, Caden Allen.
Yep.
I don't see how you put anybody else on there for sure. Could you put Colby Shearer on there? Could you put Austin Cameron? Could you put Braden Wilson? Yes. For now, based on what I've seen, I'll put Frank Verona on there. I'll buy it that he squeaks onto the ballot, but I don't think he's got to show consistency to stay there, because that's a pretty stacked ballot that we got going right there. And Colby Shearer and Braden Wilson and Austin Cameron won't let him just take it.
Absolutely. Anthony?
As much as I want to, and I've been talking him up since coming out of Worlds, I just, like you said, Allen, Soto, Ellis, Trader, Wilson, those 5 are really, really hard requirements for me to be on the ballot. So he's 6. I'm going to have to sell.
Okay. The Woodchucks should feel better about the Alec Ryan for Kyle Malone trade after this weekend.
Yeah, the Woodchucks Zach Scheidner, he tweeted at me. He said, "You like that trade now?" No, I don't. I do not. Sell it. I don't care. You don't trade Kyle Malone. What are you doing?
Well, Alec started off hot last season, so I think you have to look at the back half.
Alec's a great player. Made it all the way to finals, one of the most stacked Opens. Great. Have a cookie. You don't trade Kyle Malone.
So mad about it. Anthony?
Oh, I agree with Trey. I mean, if you're going to compare him to Kyle, he comes out and he wins just like Alec Ryan did. Props to Alec for what he's doing so far this season, and I think he's actually a really, really good doubles player in the team's environment, so I think that is a couple bonus points for him, but I'm going to sell.
All right, let's get into teams. So Florida Freeze is now 5-1. I just lost my spot. There we go. Then they go 2-1 against the Carolina Coasters, who are now 2-4. Georgia Sliders are now 3-3. They go 3-0 against the Virginia Cutters, who are 2-4. Kentucky Colonels go 3-0 against the Missouri Mays. Chicagoland Spinners go 2-1 against the Texas Bullybaggers. Anything stand out to you there, Trey?
Yeah, I got a good amount of thoughts here, right? So one of them I got to start with. The Kentucky Colonels are undefeated, ladies and gentlemen. They are undefeated, the Kentucky Colonels. And so part of what I wanted to look at here is like on how these different records are shaping out. Like let's look at the draft, right? We're still probably a little bit early to look back at what was drafted, but if we look back at the draft and we talk about where people were taken. Virginia Cutters, they go Jake Gore, Sammy Soto. Still feeling pretty good about that, right? Jeremiah Ellis goes third. At first, maybe some people may have thought that was a little high, whatever. But right now, the Woodchucks got to be loving Jeremiah Ellis at 3 right now. Caden Allen goes 4. We get to number 5, and the Missouri Mays take Alex Hicks. I don't think there's any thought on their camp right now about that pick. But right now, to me, that feels like a little bit too high. I haven't seen Alex Hicks play to the level that I have expected him to over the past couple months. And right now, I haven't even said Ryan Trader's name yet. Okay. Ryan Trader then goes 6 to the Colorado Timber. The Timber got to feel like that is a home run of a pick at 6. Here comes the big question mark. And Anthony talked about this guy in singles, Matthew Sorrells. Okay. Everybody I just named is far and away what I would define as an elite player. Whether or not we're going to put him in our 17 people in our top 10 or whatever it is, that's a different story, right? But all of those people are elite. We get to Matthew Sorrells, and that's not elite. Now, what's interesting about this is that was drafted by the Florida Freeze. The Florida Freeze traded to get that pick. Who did they trade to get that pick? Ryan Hart, who is now a top 10 doubles player, no matter a top 10 doubles team, and he just won his bracket. So to me, the Florida Freeze, I think, lost that, and who won that is the Kentucky Colonels. The Kentucky Colonels had that pick and instead traded it away and took in Ryan Hart, who at first we thought was a little bit risky, and we downgraded that. The reason I say this and the reason I'm bringing this up is then who did the Kentucky Colonels get with the first pick of the next round? Pat Sem. What did Pat Sem do this weekend? He made it to a bracket final. He won a bracket with Kaylee Hunter. So him and Kaylee Hunter, who has never won an open bracket before, win it. And then in a loaded field of 2 brackets worth of seniors, Pat Sem takes the entire thing down. So the Kentucky Colonels came out, pick up 2 really valuable picks, and then they sweep the weekend, and they start their season off on a really, really high foot. So I wanted to mention them. And then I also wanted to mention the Florida Freeze. Yeah, you know what? They made a bad trade, in my opinion, and they're still loaded. Alan Rawls and Cheyenne Bubenheim may not lose a game all year with how well that they threw this weekend. And on the teams format, I mean, they're just unbelievable. They're just going to continue to pummel teams. They're 5-1 on the season. They've only lost 1 individual game. The Georgia Sliders, they go 3-0 this weekend. I had them a little bit higher as far as production goes. Now, the downside is I don't think the Cutters, the Mays, or the Bullybaggers were able to travel the same roster of teams that they probably would have liked. But in the end, I really wanted to give some props to the Kentucky Colonels based on what they did. And I really want to give kudos to the Florida Freeze and also take a look at that draft board, because that draft board, is interesting. And if we care about Frank Verona, he's all the way down at 13. So
wow.
Frank Verona went at 13. He went it went Matthew Sorrells, Braden Wilson, Jack Gore, Colby Shearer, Austin Cameron, Logan Hall, Frank Verona. So Frank Verona was a little bit down there. The Chicagoland Spinners got kind of a good deal there on Frank Verona.
Anthony, what can you add?
Yeah, looking at the Freeze Coasters matchup, no surprise there, Trey. I think we even had them graded about the same, where we had Freeze like way up here and the Coasters kind of way down here. So no surprise there, but definitely some surprises with the Kentucky Colonels. I didn't really have them, graded very well. And the Mays I had pretty high, like a B+. So to see them go 3-0, and I think if we broke it down a little bit further, that's where we'd maybe see how do the matchups play out. What were their partnerships? We'd have to take it down to that level to really understand that. But yeah, definitely the Spinners surprises me quite a bit. I didn't give them, I didn't say that they were going to be terrible, but I really didn't rate them very high. Where I did the Bully Baggers, that roster just looks insane stacked to me. But again, I think I don't know if you have those or anybody has those in front of us, but like, what were the actual matchups of the Spinners versus the Bully Baggers? I think we'd have to look at that because we're not having every single person on the roster show up at these opens, right, Trey?
Right.
So it's kind of tough to say, hey, the whole Spinners team is better than the whole Baggers team. You got to kind of look closer and say who was really there to support the team games.
Yeah. So the Spinners had Nico Morellis and Tyler Poitras took down Deb Odom and Ernest Cisneros 12-2. Jordan Kimbrell and Mark Richards took down AJ Sims and Austin Waskow 24-3. And then they lost. They had Angel Camarena and Frank Verona lose to Jared Kufis and Zach Harris.
Wow.
Yeah, so basically the entire top of the Baggers team, the Bully Baggers team, who wasn't even really there.
Here's the interesting one. Let's look at the Colonels real quick. This is actually telling to me, Anthony. Colonels versus Mays. The Colonels had Brett Guy and Matt Guy against Ryan Windsor and Austin Renard. They win that one. Okay. Kentucky Colonels. Anthony Mayball, Tony Mayball, and Justin Rule beat Jalen Jones and Isidro Herrera 11-6.
Okay.
That's a realistic matchup that we could have seen throughout the season. And then the last one, Ryan Hart and Carter Bennett beat Ethan Walker and Damon Reynolds 30-6. So, I mean, that matchup by the Colonels didn't feel as top-heavy, bottom-heavy. I mean, yes, maybe a little bit skewed, but at the same time, some people won those games that you probably could have gone with a coin flip there. And I think that's good news for the Colonels who are trying to turn around, the just okay season that they had last year. If I want to look at any other, I looked at those two. The last one for the Freeze. The Freeze, they had Davis and Hunt beat Alex Rawls and Chris Fagan 23-0.
Yeah.
Matthew Sorrells and Blaine Rozier beat Trevor Brooks and Berkeley Pear 12-7.
I could see
Alan Rawls. Yeah, that's a coin flip to me.
That's a coin flip.
Alan Rawls and Cheyenne Bubenheim beat Jamie Graham and Frank Maudlin 19-2.
No surprise.
No surprise, says
No
Anthony
surprise.
Ione.
Oh,
And then finally, the Georgia Clemmer and Holland beat Jonathan Etheridge and Jake Gore 9-8. Terry Mathis and Gabe Dolan beat Felix Vargas and Justin Stranger 24-4. And then Ryan Smith and Ryan Wiedenfeld beat Sammy Soto and Logan Chamberlain 16-10.
Oh, that's a good one.
So the Sliders came to play.
it came to play. All right, we got hot takes. Trey, you got one ready?
I'm staying on it. These Kentucky Colonels make the playoffs this year.
Oh.
I think it's a good sign. I think
it's still hot.
I think it's hot too, but I'm looking at the way they drafted. They brought back some good players. They drafted good players. That's a recipe for success.
Anthony?
I was really impressed at what Jimmy Humans did this weekend. If we look at him last season, he was, and this might shock a lot of people, he was 98th last season in singles, which is insane.
Wow.
I'm going to say Jimmy Humans finishes top 20 in singles this year. He is throwing fire right now.
Dang. I'm going to go with Bubenheim. I think that she's going to win. We're doing women's events at Nationals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's going to sweep it. Pregnant,
All
newborn,
8.
don't matter. I think she's
Don't
got
matter.
it.
Wow. That's a lot. That's a
Yeah.
lot of them.
I know. So that's my hot take. That's all we have time for today, everyone. Have an amazing new year, and we will see you next time.